Is David Moyes the new Sam Allardyce? The ticket office at West Ham screw up yet again. And are our referees just a little bit rubbish? There's some of the things I'm going to be discussing today. If you're new to the channel, please give this video a watch, and if you like it, please subscribe. The channel's called Claret and Booze. Otherwise, give us a like and hit the bell notification icon. On with the show. So David Moyes, lot to talk about with David Moyes, and there's been a hell of a lot of negativity after the game at the weekend. Now, I'm not a Moyes out person, right? I think it's far too early to be talking about stuff like that. But this interested me because a lot of people are aligning his style of football with Sam Allardyce, basically saying, it's just like Sam, it's just like Big Sam. Well, I don't think it is. I don't think it is just like Sam Allardyce. I mean, there are a lot of big differences with what Sam used to do and what David Moyes does, and so I just want to compare a few, and I think it all comes down to playing one up front, because Allardyce used to play a 4-5-1, a 4-1-4-1, a 5-4-1, always one up front, solo one up front, and even though it felt quite negative, when you look at the way we are now, we're quite solid usually defensively. When you look back at Sam Allardyce's era, we weren't really that solid defensively. We used to get slaughtered a lot under Sam Allardyce. We ground out a lot of results, a lot of decent results, but we also let in 3, 4 and 5 quite often. We don't do that under David Moyes. So defence is a massive priority under Moyes. But more often than not, it doesn't, defending doesn't end with just shoving the ball out to the wingers and getting a cross into the box, or going over the top, playing long ball. It does, however, when we're playing a team like Chelsea, right? When we're playing a team like Chelsea, I can see how the comparison is drawn. Because if you look at the first half on Sunday, we were sitting back a lot. We were sitting back and absorbing the pressure. Right, and we were pretty much bypassing the midfield and trying to play a long ball up to Antonio whenever we could. But then we changed it around in the second half. I think the first half was a means to an end. That is typically not the way David Moyes would play, albeit he has done it 2 games in a row. So I can see why the comparisons are being drawn. But let's talk about another couple of things that that Sam Allardyce did. Sam Allardyce, for a lot of people, was a horror story. For me, I think he was all right, but just tailed off at the end. To be honest, I always back the managers, no matter whether we think they're a bit rubbish or not. But he did some despicable things. I mean, firstly, after winning that game 1-0 and cupping his ear, he showed contempt for the fans, right? But the one thing I'll never forget, and this is something you would never get with David Moyes, and he did this purely to spite the fans because we were calling for some kids to be played, is we had that, you remember that away game against Nottingham Forest where Sam Allardyce, just to prove a point, he willingly went out and ruined 5 young careers, 6 young careers, put all the kids together playing away to Nottingham Forest, and they got obliterated. I think 5-something, right? Walked all over us. He did that to prove a point to the fans because he was petty. He was completely petty, right? He would do stuff like that. He would also suffer with blind spots, and every manager suffers with blind spots. For instance, towards the end, we know Kevin Nolan's legs were gone, but he kept getting a game. I think that, David Moyes, you could say at the moment, you can see that Bowen ain't playing well, but he's starting every game. You see that Fabianski ain't playing well, but he's starting every game. All managers suffer from that, but that's not exclusive to Moyes and Allardyce, right? I think you're talking about, you're comparing apples with pears when you're looking at these 2 managers. Moyes has bought a hell of a lot of flair players. Now, whether he's used them properly is another question altogether, but it hasn't stopped him being willing to go in and buy flair players. I couldn't imagine, for instance, Sam Allardyce signing Paqueta, right? I couldn't imagine him getting much use out of Ben Rama. But we need to see the evidence. We need to see the evidence. We need to see these players start getting used regularly. So Ben Rama's more regular now than he was, even though he's been our best player so far this season. He has suddenly found himself on the bench. Cornet can't get a start for love nor money. And we'll see what happens to Paqueta and Scamacca. We've got all of these great attacking options now, and I think people just want to see him used. They just want to see him used. But I think if I was to pass judgment and say, is David Moyes the new Sam Allardyce? I'd have to say no. He's got a lot more about him than Sam Allardyce. And also, he doesn't have that petty streak that Sam Allardyce had. And I think that is what set a lot of people against him. You know, that Forest game was probably the straw that broke the camel's back for a lot of people. Also, we've seen some great football, some great counter-attacking football under David Moyes, and some fantastic results. Last week was like, you know, for the most part, a carnival of football. We never saw anything like that under Big Sam, did we? You know, let's be honest. A lot of it was drudgery. I mean, even the games that we won, you know, it was in the Premier League. I'm talking about in the Premier League era. Can't really talk about Championship, but in the games that we won in the Premier League era, you know, a lot of them would depend upon, you know, wing play, getting the ball into the box, the old position of maximum opportunity, the POMO, which was the far post. You know, all this sort of stuff came along with Sam Allardyce. So anyway, look, I just want to put that little bit of rumour to bed, because I don't know if you agree. Let me know in the comments if what you think. But I think they're chalk and cheese, personally. On to the next item. So, ticket office. Right, these are things that stung me personally. I think last week, I've got 2 season tickets, right, in the Bobby Moore Lower. West Ham offered me a 3-pack of European tickets for the group stage of the Conference League. So I went in and I paid for two lots, because I've got 2 tickets. So 2 times 3 packs, which was 160 quid. They took my money. My bank account was debited, and then they said the transaction failed. And then I tried, you know, this was over a bank holiday weekend, so the phones were down at the ticket office. You couldn't call anyone. I emailed people. Nobody was answering emails. Eventually, on Monday morning, I tried to buy the tickets again, because by this time, they'd actually become unlocked. They were locked all weekend. I bought them again. Paid another 160 quid, so now I'm down 320 quid. Then I called up the ticket office and their phones were working. Got through and they said, oh yeah, it's a widespread issue. We'll add you to a spreadsheet. When did you pay? So that we can cross-reference the... You know, so it sounds like a bit of a farce, to be honest, and it sounds like it affected a lot more than me, right? I'm going to be one cell on a spreadsheet or one row on a spreadsheet. And then this week on Monday morning, we had all of the people's loyalty points suddenly disappeared. I went down from 14 points to 6. You know, some of the people with 40 plus points ended up in, you know, almost single digits. Bit of a nightmare. A lot of people complained. That was corrected pretty soon after. But this is 2 ticket office problems, one after the other. Now, I know the ticket office are aligned with Ticketmaster, and so maybe the problems are caused by them. But there's a lot to be said, West Ham, for when there's a problem, get out there and admit the problem, say how it's going to be fixed, and stop people calling up, sending emails, and all that sort of stuff. Be a bit proactive about it, for once. So finally, let's talk about referees. Far too many mistakes over the weekend from referees and VAR. I personally, I'm inclined to blame VAR and the referees that are in the back office operating the VAR, but really it's the referees on the pitch who have the final say. There are really only 2 senior referees. You know, this is something I found out from Gio and Hammer's chat, actually. We've only got 2 UEFA refs. That's Michael Oliver and Anthony Taylor. Now, those guys are up in the pecking order compared to the others, right? There's a lot of new referees coming through, including the guy that we had the other day, you know, Andy Medley. He's been around for a couple of seasons now, but the guy in the VAR room was relatively new. But these guys are constantly being judged, and they're afraid to make a mistake. And I think it's noticeable that only one of those referees over the weekend decided to use his own judgment and go with his decision, even when he was asked to go to the camera and review it, and that was Michael Oliver. And Michael Oliver is one of those two senior UEFA refs, right? So it just goes to show the people who are not that high in the pecking order, they probably don't feel as willing to make that judgment call and risk being wrong. You know, they would rather just bow down to whatever they're being told to look at by the VAR refs. That's weakness. It's weakness. I mean, look at something on the video. Again, why do we have to look at something for 3 or 4 minutes on VAR, right? Why can't we just look at something? Because it's supposed to be about clear and obvious errors, right? So if you look at something on a replay, on a slow motion replay, and it ain't even clear and obvious on a slow motion replay after a couple of takes, why do you keep looking? Why do you keep looking for minutes and minutes and minutes? You haven't seen it yet. You haven't seen what you're looking for yet. So answer me this. Are they just looking for reasons to stop goals? And I think they are. I think they are. And that is not what it's supposed to be about. You remember that ruling they made years ago about the offside rule where they said always give the striker an advantage, the attacking team an advantage. Well, that's what should happen with VAR. And there should be a time limit. There should be a time limit. Give them, I don't know, a minute. Give them a minute. Give them 30 seconds, whatever it is. Let them have a quick look. You know, they can see, the same event in slow motion from 3 or 4 different angles, right? That's enough. That's enough. The referee's seen it in real time. They've seen it in 3 or 4 different angles. You don't have to slow it down to a minimum speed and try to find a problem to stop a goal with. Football is about goals. And what we're doing at the moment is we're cancelling goals out. Makes you wonder, if you were to retrospectively apply VAR through history, right? What effect would that have? Would we have won the FA Cup? Would Forest have won the European Cup? When you look back at all these decisions, they're taking the fun out of football. They've got to bring the fun back into football. And the biggest red flag for me is zero. None of our VAR referees are being invited to the World Cup this in the winter. That means our VAR referees are not rated very highly. And I suspect only Michael Oliver and Anthony Taylor, if they make the grade, would be invited representing our association as well, which is better than a previous World Cup where none of them got invited, right? The state of our refereeing and VAR refereeing is abysmal. We should be setting a standard. We're supposed to have the best league in the world. We should have the best officiating in the world to go with it as well. Because if you don't, what you end up being accused of is corruption. And to all intents and purposes, that's what it feels like some of the times, doesn't it? So, look, that's me done. Nick and John are going to be back with their own shows later in the week. If you've enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, hit the bell notification icon, but most importantly, to help us out, please subscribe to the channel Claret and Booze. Until next time, see you soon, and come on, you irons.